does it do, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Says I Am Your Host. And the Rams handle business on Sunday at the Haunted Palace. And they take down that hapless team from the nation's capital, the team formerly known as the Slurs, and they move to 500. But before we get there, I must get a couple things off my chest. All right? Now, have you been listening to the narrative? See, I've been telling you folks. I hope you have been following along. This is episode 89, my folks. But for many an episode now, I've been chronicling the Rams, and I've been warning you of the narrative. There is a national sports media narrative that puts Coach McWonder at the center of a deity complex. In other words, my folks, he gets all the credit, none of the blame. You dig? And so, I spoke last episode 88, about a particular media type, a Ferrety-looking character on national TV. He's got a national platform, and every day, this fellow is extolling the virtues of Coach McWonder. Why, they had the nerve to say on this particular show just the other day that after the Rams scratched and clawed and finally made their way to 500 at 7-7, that Coach Sean McGenius ought to be Coach of the Year. They said it. I've got it on video, DVR. They're pushing a narrative that the coach of the Rams should be Coach of the Year in the NFL. 2023, the Deuce Tray. Yes. And I'm like, first of all, are you watching the games? You people that are saying this, are you? Now, I've already told you now, there is a McWonder cult out there, right? And so the ferret, he's part of the cult. So you almost can't really count him. But there is a growing number of media types with platforms, many of them national, who are planting these seeds in the minds of the public and the voters that Coach McWonder should be Coach of the Year. Why the Rams are 500 at 7-7. Shouldn't he be Coach of the Year? Well, he has no talent. Nothing to work with, And look what he's doing. I heard them say that Vegas and the people who thought that the Rams were going to be terrible this year, they should be ashamed of themselves with the great McWonder leading the way. How could they not be a successful playoff team? Well, this is revisionist history in full swing, my folks. How could anyone think they might be terrible? Did you happen to see any of last season? 5-12. 5-12. And I bought in. I was there at the Palace, a season ticket holder. I couldn't give the tickets away late in the season. 5-12, and it was an ugly 5-12. It was a stinking mess. Awful. How could anyone think they wouldn't be good? Anyone who witnessed that atrocity that was being put on the field last season, that's how they could think it. And then in the offseason, there was even more talent drain. So you had more talent drain from a 5-12 squad. People were well within their rights to think the Rams wouldn't be that good. Here's the thing. There is talent on the roster. And a lot of times, it's younger players, hungry players. They're the ones who are going to really run through the wall for you. The millionaires, they got business decisions to make. So, yes, addition by subtraction. I questioned, why we lost B. Wags. I don't know. It was 1 year. He played great. But okay. But the other departures, Ashes. I don't have a problem with Ashes going. Pretty good. That was good to go. Addition by subtraction there. Right? What about Buster Brown? A-Rob, addition by subtraction. Because that was a bust. Okay? So, there's a great reason why people were skeptical about the Rams coming into the 2023 season. And now to say otherwise because they're 7-7, why, that's just revisionist history. You're just going back and altering the commentary to fit your narrative today. And here's the other thing, my folks. Coach of the year? Listen. Hear me out. Were it not for Coach McWonder making so many damn McBlunders, the Rams could easily be 10-4, 9-5. Okay? He has blundered them into several losses, at least a couple, maybe 3. I've chronicled these games week by week. The Rams played misguided football against the Eagles. They were reprehensible against the Bengals. They coughed up opportunities against the Steelers. They hung right with them damn Niners, but Shanahan is going to Son McJr. every time. If you want a candidate for Coach of the Year, here, let me throw one out at you. This is who I would say. I'm a Rams fan now. This is who I would say would be a great candidate for Coach of the Year. You know who? Who? Shane Steichen. Indy. Shane Steichen. That's who should be Coach of the Year. And if it turns out that he is Coach of the Year, come back, underscore this, come back and check it. Check it on the map. I'm telling you, Shane Steichen has impressed me. Now, I got to see the Rams play Indy, so I got to see up close what he was doing. I did I'm not blowing my own horn, but I did a really, I think, in-depth and powerful episode on the Rams-Colts overtime game. Shane Steichen, down 20-0, deep into the second half, ran the ball consistently, despite the deficit, despite the time remaining in regulation. He stayed disciplined with it. It impressed me, running the ball like that, down 20 zip, going into the fourth quarter, running not 2-3 times, 6-7 times, 8 out of 9 times, And what do you know? He forced the Rams to overtime. Like that. Running the ball. Even in a deficit that deep. Even that late in the game. And then when you finally torture and punish the defense that often, that hard with the run game, you go over the top. Boom! And that's what we saw when the Rams went to Indy to play in that barn house they play in. And the Rams ended up pulling that one out in overtime. But it was an epic game. I did an epic episode about it. And I'm here to tell you, Shane Steichen is the real deal. I just saw where Shane Steichen was playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Indy versus Pittsburgh. Shane Steichen ran the ball 13 consecutive times against the Steelers. What? Say what? Now I was over here fluttering and all, just gushing with praise about McGenius running 9 straight times. Remember last episode? 9 straight, I couldn't believe it. I said, McGenius, he's got it, he's arrived. McGenius, yes! That was 9 straight. And then he threw 3 straight incompletions and squandered it, and I called him McSquander. That's all in episode 88. Well, Shane Steichen, 9. He said 9? I'll see you another 4. 13 straight. And I believe he would have continued on if he had been getting the results McGenius was getting. He would have plowed that on into the end zone, but he finally threw after he faced a 3rd and long after running 13 consecutive run plays. And of course, when he threw that pass, it was incomplete. So, hey, Shane Steichen, I haven't seen the up-close work of every NFL coach this season, but if I had to make a vote, Shane Steichen, no doubt about it. And Indy is right there in the playoffs. They have the same record or not, maybe better than the Rams. Okay. That was one. Now, here's the other thing. And this one, my folks, is a little more, it's more serious. Now, this has to do with the opponent of the Rams this past weekend. It was that team from Washington, the aforementioned team, formerly known as the Slurs. And, the thing was, it got me to thinking, how could anyone in good conscience have ever supported a team with a slur for a mascot? I understand you're from there, you're born in the D.C. area, whatever. And I give a pass to children who are given this kind of drivel and they don't have the wherewithal, the life experience, the maturity to understand what's at play. But I'm talking about adults, grown people, some of them old, who for years resisted calls to change the name of the Washington football team. Resisted tooth and nails. No. They went to such extremes, not just the owner, but there were fans and media. They went to extremes to justify. And I remember this, because there was always pressure from people who said, that's foul. It's a slur. You should stop it. It's disgraceful. Don't call the name of the team from Washington or any professional American team a racial slur. Look at the mascot, this painted red profile of a Native American. It's deplorable. And yet, The resistance was mighty. No, we want to leave it. They even went so far as to bribe Native Americans. They gave them money to come on camera and say, hey, it doesn't bother us. It's okay. We'll go right ahead. Yay, yay, we cheer for them too. How much money did you give them to do that? You know. And that's why they say everybody has a price, I guess, because these people, I don't know how much money they were paid for that, but it wasn't enough, I guarantee you. But then they use that. See, the Native Americans don't mind. Let's continue using it. Oh, we'd have to change the mascot, and it would cost us so much money, and they don't mind. Despicable. And so what made me really think about it was, because the team from Washington, they're terrible. There's nothing there to really talk about. And so when they come to LA, well, you expect that they're going to take an L, and they did. But what I noticed, though, was that their fans, their followers, the patrons, they still are holding on to the slur legacy. Now, the Rams were up 20-0 at one point, and for the most part, they were fairly quiet. But once Jacoby Brissett came into the game and Washington started to move the ball, and they got on the scoreboard and they started kicking up some racket. Yay! Look at us! And the camera pans around the stadium as they're now, finally, they have something to cheer about. They're up, jumping up and down, and I'm taken aback by, look at all of the slur mascots I see. They're wearing them on their shirts and on their hats. I see them still. How many years has it been since they changed the name, and yet you persist in wearing this? In public, no less. Have you no shame? As a double aside, it reminds me of a woman I was dating. We went out in public, and on this particular occasion, when she came out of the house, she had a t-shirt that was embossed with the image of R. Kelly. And this was many years ago now. I mean, well before prison. But I remember then at the time thinking, what are you doing? Where are you going? We're going, wait, whoa. What are you wearing? And we got into let's call it a disagreement about this. And I told her then and there, if you ever come anywhere with me ever again, and you have that on, I'm out. Deuces to you. Good day, madam. And weeks later, we were going somewhere on a weekend, and out she came with the shirt, and I was like, I didn't even discuss it. I was like, oh, deuces. What do you? Are you? There's certain things you have to draw the line, my folks, is what I'm trying to say to you. And so you still, all these years later, because they changed it from the slurs, then they just became WFT. Remember that? The Washington football team, WFT. That was all right. I mean, it was goofy, but it was better than the slurs. You should have just stayed WFT. But, people said, no, it's too generic. We've got to, remember, they used to have a beer that just had 4 letters on it, beer. It's too generic. We got to have a real mascot. So what did they come up with? The Commanders. The Commanders. Well, yeah, that's kind of dumb. I mean, so Commanders of what? What is this? Military reference? See, there you go. And here we're right back at it again. Who are you commanding? Soldiers? What are you doing? Incursions? Whose land? Or who are you killing? Oh, nah, commanders. Nah, you were better off WFT. So, again, I know I went down the rabbit hole, but when I saw all those fans with the slur paraphernalia on at the palace, I said, wow, it serves you right. I hope you never have another winning season until the last one of you with that kind of paraphernalia has the sense to stay out of the public eye with it. Thank you. Let's continue. Let's get into game analysis. Yeah. So, as I say now, it was an interesting one, despite the fact that the team formerly known as the Slurs are awful. You still had, unfortunately, you still had McBunders in the game. And there were, unfortunately and uncharacteristically, there were some turnover issues, specifically fumbles by your tailback to start the game. Inactives for the game, inactives. Well, out. Concussion protocol. Now, he is expected to be available to play again. The Rams' next game coming up Thursday night football against the Saints. And that is the last Haunted Palace home game of the season, as it turns out, unless some type of machinations take place in the playoffs that would allow otherwise, which is always possible, but very unlikely. But Tutu out for the game. Also out, Rob Havenstein, your right tackle with the groin. And so I expect that Note Go Boom will be Note Go In at right tackle. And as it turned out, that's exactly how that went down. And with Tutu out, I'm extremely hopeful that the Demarcus Robinson will be the third wide receiver in that 11 personnel wide receiver trio, replacing Tutu. And in fact, that was the case. And so I felt very good about what I saw the starting lineup to be going into the Washington game. Maybe I'll give Washington a nickname. Well, I was calling them the team formerly known as the Slurs, but maybe I should call them the Washington Paleskins. How about that? Do you think people would like that? Have a picture of a pasty dude on the side of the helmet? The Paleskins are coming to, ladies and gentlemen, the Washington Paleskins. Put your hands together. Or maybe the DC Pasties. Well, how about the DC Pasties? How do you think people would like that? Okay, I know. I said I was done, but okay. Back to the game. Washington goes 3-0. And who is back to receive the punt? You know who it is. Now I'm gonna give a couple new nicknames out this week. I've got a couple new ones for you. So back to receive the punt is, I'm gonna call him Muffins. Why? Because he be muffin. Did you see him in Baltimore muffin? Not one muffin, two muffins. Hence the name. Trammell is now Muffins. And so Muffins is back to receive the punt. And I have often said that Muffins should just fair catch everything as long as he's not muffin. Because he suffers from, I found it in the book, he suffers from no yak at all. It's a chronic disorder now. And he's not the only one. His cousin Stoney, he's got it. And I've been concerned that Soup might be spending too much time with Muffins and Stoney, and maybe Soup wasn't wearing his mask and he caught it from them, and now Soup might have no yak at all. But fortunately, turns out all worries were for naught. Soup broke off a big one, busted their ass with a big 62-yard bomb, running free. So Soup is fine. I'm here to report he has not contracted no yak at all from Muffin and Stoney. But see, this leads me into my problem with all of this praise about McWonder being coach of the year and all of this. You have to understand that McWonder is the main man down there at the palace. Nothing goes on without his decision. He and he alone has absolute power. He got sick of the golfer. Remember, he said, I got to get out from under the golfer. Get me Matty from the D. And they made that happen. They moved and shook. And next thing you know, Matty from the D in L.A. Okay? Nothing happens down there at the palace without McWonder's approval. And so I have been saying it's a case of P and P. That is play calling and personnel. This is why he cannot be considered coach of the year. This is why this cannot be considered his finest coaching performance ever, like the ferret would say. And I know I'm going back down the rabbit hole, but I don't understand. How can you say this year, this 7-7 year, is his finest coaching performance? What about the first year he came? He took, and I told you, I'm fair with McGenius now. I like him. So I give him, you know, the amount of guff that he deserves based on the McBlunders. But I've been the first one to heap praise upon him, and he has deserved it. Okay, but it is not forever unconditional. All right? Not perpetual into perpetuity. You got to come with it. So in 2017, Sean the Boy Wonder McGenius, a.k.a., came into what was a lost franchise. The Rams, just a year removed from St. Louis, they were 2 years. It was the second year they were in. They got back to LA 2016. He came 2017. Okay, and they were awful. They had been awful. They were the most losing team for the past 10 years, a decade of futility. Jeff Westerbar Fisher was the worst coach that I can imagine. And so McGenius came in. It was a breath of fresh air. It was bright light coming into an old dusty cave. It was like, oh, thank God the bats flew out. Wah, wah. You know, the change that he made in the culture, in the mindset, the way they approached the game, the offensive ingenuity, all of it, he deserved to be coach of the year. To turn that team, what we saw with the golfer in 2016, to turn that into a playoff team his first year, yes, he deserved it. Yes, he deserved to be coach of the year. Yes, that was, in my opinion, the finest coaching performance of his career. But if you don't like that one, well, what about the Super Bowl year? Huh? And he lost, Soup was out, right? And he still had the golfer, right? What about the coaching he did that? Now, I grant you, they got to the actual Super Bowl and just laid a big rotten stinking egg. That was the worst Super Bowl I've ever seen. But up to that point, remember that year, 2018, wasn't it? Remember the Kansas City Rams game in Mexico City and the golfer and Mahomes, and it was 51-49 or whatever the score was, 100 points in that game. And McGenius was in full offensive brilliance. Hey, keep in mind now, McGenius came in being about the run game. Remember that. Okay? They want to make him this, and I believe he does, in fact, have pass happiness. I found it in the book. But this is a progressive condition that has come upon him. When he got to LA, he was rooted in the ground game. Todd Gurley and all of that misdirection and motion. And it wasn't until he got Matty from the D, I think, where it really triggered his pass happiness. He abandoned the principles of ground control and power run game principles. He abandoned them. And he wanted to chuck it all around the yard. But with a quarterback with a history of vaunted possession, that's a risky approach. But even then, if you don't want to count that year as his best year, what about the Super Bowl year that he won it all? Remember, it was Matty's first year in LA, and the Rams, they had their issues. Bobby Trees went down that year with the season-ending injury, which he never came back from with the Rams. A McGenius decision. But to lose Deshaun Jackson, to incorporate OBJ and the run game issues because he had to sort of mix and match and patch it together. What about that as his finest year? No, this year, the 7-7 year with all the McBlunders. That's the best one? Oh, they need to stop him. See? Personnel and play calling, P&P. That falls squarely on the head of McWonder. Right? Remember last year? Remember? I told you about the legend of Stony Wolf Funk. You remember? Stony, the Wolf, and Jake Funk. And McGenius had them on the NFL payroll. Stony Wolf Funk. Okay? Nephewtism. I told you last year. So what do we have this year? Well, this year we got Stony Muffins. Stony Muffins. Okay. All right. Personnel and play calling are vital. And when you have absolute power over both those domains, you know what they say? Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. That's what they say. I didn't say it. Somebody else said it. And so I've said the best thing that Muffins can do is fair catch the ball, and this is what he does. He does successfully fair catch the ball. The Rams take over on offense, and it is as I had hoped it would be. On offense, it's that same starting offensive line from left to right. You have Jackson, Avila, Shelton, Dotson, and at right tackle in place of Havenstein, No-Go Boom. And then, of course, that wide receiver trio for this week in 11 personnel is missing. Tutu is out, and so it is the DeMarcus Robinson. I'll call him TDR for short. It's TDR with Puka and Soup. And so maybe I'll call them the Puka Soup. I'll work on it. At any rate, Matty from the D is under center, and that's important because I've come to see, or I suspect, the offense just seems to flow and function smoother when Matty is under center, and then he can option out of that. He can audible back in the gun and make adjustments, but when he's under center, it just seems to open up more possibilities for the offense. That's just to my untrained eye, okay? And so, your tailback is K-Will. And, K-Will had a rougher game, but I like the fact that he owned up to it. He looked it square in the eye, took responsibility for it, didn't duck it, didn't dodge it, didn't make excuses, said he's going to be better, knows what he's got to do. That's the way you got to deal with that. Back at tight end, your starter, Higbee back and ready to rumble. And Higbee so eager, in fact, that on the very first offensive play of the game for the Rams, Higbee false start. Rams behind the sticks to start the game. And so they ultimately face a 3rd and 9. Matty from the D is in the shotgun and he fires, and it is a dart to the Demarcus Robinson TDR with a big 22-yard first down reception. And then the very next play, Matty hands off to K-Will, and K-Will darting, jump, cutting, finding the daylight, breaking free, 28 big yards. And then the next play after that, Matty, Puka, running butter smooth routes, running free. And the Rams offense looks to be rolling. And then it happens. That gulp in my throat. What do I see, my folks? Well, I'm afraid this may be the McBlunder play of the week. At least that's what I'm concerned about. Why? What do I see? It looks like McWonder is getting cutesy here. Now you're rolling, right? Matty's throwing darts and your running back is gouging. So just go ahead and we remember last week. Okay. But no, McGenius wants to show his cutesy side. Okay, so what does he do? He's got K-Will lined up to take the direct snap. And he's got his quarterback, Matty from the D, lined up wide right. K-Will takes the snap, and Matty, he's like faking the reverse, the jet sweep, like he's gonna take the handoff from K-Will, and I'm like, oh, it's got disaster written all over it. But fortunately, K-Will does keep the ball, because if he had pitched it to him, Matty would have been decimated by 2 defenders who were distracted by it all, the nonsense of it all. And so K-Will is able to get the edge and picks up about 8 yards, and it's like, okay, doom and disaster averted. All right, good. Let's just get back to some fundamental football here. But my folks, it was like that play was a harbinger of what was to come. It was like the canary in the proverbial coal mine. It was like the precursor to this is it. This is it, my folks. The McBlunder spotlight of the week. Let's get into it. Set it up for you, my folks, because it's eerily reminiscent of the previous week in Baltimore. Here it is now. It's the first offensive drive of the game for the Rams, just like last week in Baltimore. And the Rams are moving the ball with ease, just like the week before in Baltimore. And the Rams have a 1st and goal, just like last week. The difference is this week, McGenius has mixed in pass and run. That's great. But we're at 1st and goal from the 5-yard line now. And I heard him say, Mr. McWonder, I heard him say it in the post game. He said, I'm going to look at the tape and we're going to learn from the mistakes. I heard him say it. And yet here we are. It's 1st and goal from the 5. And it seems as though he has learned nothing. Not a damn thing, it seems. And so what this tells me, my folks, is that Mr. McWonder is, in fact, not learning from his mistakes. He is repeating them over and over again. This puts me in the mind of bird brain behavior, or a condition like past happiness. Because he said, well, he qualified it, but last week when asked about that 9 straight runs to set up a 1st and goal in Baltimore, and then throwing 3 straight times incomplete and having to settle for the field goal, when asked about it, he said, I probably should have kept running the ball there. And I mentioned it in 88, last week's episode. I mentioned it. Probably, I say. Probably. That suggests to me you haven't really come to grips with the magnitude of your error. And just as I said last week, it comes to pass this week. Here it is yet again. 1st and goal from the 5 he's throwing. He did not run the ball once. And once again, he's got to call for the Havrisic experience. That's my new nickname for him. The Havrisic experience, because that's what it is. You don't know what you're going to get with Havrisic. It's an experience. 1st and goal from the 5. You have to settle for 3 without running the ball. You've not learned anything. And so let's look at it now. It's 1st and goal, and it's really not even the 5. It's close to the 4. It's like the 4.5, let's call it. And what do I see, my folks? Matty is in the gun. And I'm like, here we go again. Here we go again with Coach of the Year. Now, Matty's in the gun. 1st and goal to 4.5. He's in the gun. He's throwing laterally for Soup. Soup gets hit, goes nowhere, loses yards. And that's when I first start thinking, he's been probably sitting next to the No Yak at All boys on the bus or on the plane or somewhere in the locker room. They've given it to him. He didn't have a mask on. No yak at all. Now it's 2nd and goal, but you're further back now. You're at the 11. 2nd and goal now. Right? And I see, McGenius has come to his senses. Look, he's got Matty under center. Oh, and I feel better. He's going to course correct. He's going to hand the ball off to his dynamic young running back, K. Will. No, my folks, no, he doesn't. No, it's play action. He fakes the toss to K. Will, and then Matty runs, scrambles, rolls out, and throws for Puka. Puka fights for 5 or so yards, but he's well short of the end zone. In fact, we're right back at the original line of scrimmage. And so now it's 3rd and goal. Okay? We're still back at about the 4.5-yard line. 2 passes. We're right back at the same spot now. Why don't you hand the ball off, McWonder, and score the touchdown? Let K. Will go on and score it. Anyway, later on, he did, in fact, finally give K. Will the rock and let him run it in. But in this situation, as we sequence the McBlunder spotlight of the week, does he do that on 3rd and goal from the 4.5? Oh, hell no. 3rd and goal from the 4, and I'm thinking, say it ain't so, McWonder. Say you're not going to do the same damn thing again this week. Say you're not going to be Coach McSquander yet again. Run the ball, man. Run the ball, money. But no, McWonder has Matty lined up in the shotgun, and I knew then and there, he's sick with it. He's throwing, no doubt about it. And so on 3rd and goal, out of the gun, they snap the ball, and Matty is looking and there's no one open, and he's looking and he's patting and his feet are tapping, and then the bucket collapses and down goes Matty. Down goes Matty, grazing on haunted turf. Ow. Ow. And I'm like, McWonder, you're a McBlundering fool right now. You just did it again. You just repeated the same damn blunder from Baltimore at the Haunted Palace. First and goal inside the 5-yard line. You're running back right behind you, ready to tote it in, and you throw 3 straight times. Nothing. Field goal. Horrific experience. And there you have it, my folks. This has been your McBlunder Spotlight of the Week. The man who repeatedly makes the same mistakes and somehow expects a different outcome. What do we call that, my friends? Say it with me. Bird brain. Or a condition that's bigger than him, known as past happiest. Either way, 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, the results of the same McBlunders. All I can see is you're sick with it. So, once again, McBlunder becomes McSquander. And the Rams lead 3-0. But I guess I can't help but wonder, what is it about the rushing touchdown that is so offensive to Coach McBlunder? Why are you so opposed to it? It's like he scorns a rushing touchdown. It's like he resents it. He's got contempt for a rushing touchdown. He doesn't want that. It's no good to him. He doesn't get enjoyment from that. He's only happy when he can chuck it in. That makes him happy, you see. And so, for the second week in a row now, the broadcast team announcers openly question Sean McGenius. And, I'm like, wow, that's 2 weeks in a row. The word is finally getting out. It's slow to come. And there's a lot of people who fight to suppress the truth. That's why I say you can come here, my folks. I'll give you the real. I'll give you the truth. When he's good, I'll say he's good. And when he's McBlunder, I'll say, bah! Okay? And so, on the broadcast team, they openly question why, yet again, he would eschew, he would disdain, he would abandon the run inside the 5-yard line, first and goal. And what happened when they questioned it? One of the ex-athletes on the broadcast, James Lofton, on the broadcast, when I heard him say it, I had to pause the television. I'm going to read you the quote. This is what I'm talking about, the cult of McWonder. What James Lofton said when they began to question why McGenius hadn't run the ball inside the 5-yard line. James Lofton said, and I quote, when you are an elite play caller, you don't question your play calls. You question the execution. You don't question yourself. You blame the players. They didn't execute. All of the credit, none of the blame. When you are an elite play caller, you don't question the play calls. You only question their execution. And that's why I have to say he's like the Teflon Sean. Nothing sticks to him. He's slippery with it. The Teflon Sean, but there are starting to be cracks in the armor, and I will continue to broadcast from the outskirts of the city. And I will broadcast the truth. Now it's 13-0 LA, and at a certain point, you do have to point to execution. And in this case, it is K. Will we have to point at, because he did cough up the ball twice, 2 fumbles. That's highly unlike him. And like I said, I like that he took responsibility for it. He didn't try to pass it off on anyone else. He said he knows he can't do it. He will be better. It won't happen again. That's all you can ask of the young man. And he is a dynamic runner. He changes the game for the Rams. And so K. Will would tote in a touchdown down inside the 5-yard line, but that touchdown was sandwiched between 2 coughed up fumbles. And so the execution in that case did hold the Rams back. And so otherwise, the score could have been much higher. And the Haversick experience, another missed field goal. And so I know that is a sore point for Coach McGenius, that the field goal game is so sketch. The Rams have the ball, and K. Will in the backfield is ready to rumble. McGenius is running the ball to start the possession, and K. Will plowing ahead. 14 tough pound driving yards, hard fought yards. And then on the very next play, Addy under center, Soup going in motion. This time from right to left. And Matty goes over the top, home run ball. Soup, look at Soup running free, and Matty almost overthrew him. Soup had to catch it with his tippy tips, the tips of his fingers, but he pulls it in. Soup does not drop passes, okay? And he is an elite route runner. And then you give him credit for his work in the run game. He's a willing blocker. And so I mentioned a week or 2 back that, while he was still trying to make his way back from the injuries that have plagued him, maybe it would be better to let him get a little bit of a break and run with Tutu and TDR and Puka. But now I see clearly that the answer is the DeMarcus Robinson Puka Soup. The Puka Soup. That's the answer. And Tutu still very effective, can take the top off, but Tutu, I don't know that he necessarily needs to be starting ahead of TDR. And so it's 20-0 LA, 20-0, and that's really all I need to give you from the game, other than once they did start to the team formerly known as, once they made the quarterback change to Jacoby Brissett and they started to score, that's when I started seeing all those Slur fans jumping up and down. Shame on ya. But it did make me wonder, why didn't Jacoby Brissett start the game? Riverboat Ron, tell me that. Doesn't matter. The team formerly known as the Slurs would go down to defeat 28-20. And the Rams pull to 7-7. And so now the Rams are squarely in playoff position. In fact, as is often said, if the playoffs were to start today, the Rams would be the 7th seed. In fact, if the playoffs were to start today, the Rams would play them damn Cowboys in Dallas. Now, all of this is fluid, of course, because we still have 3 more weeks to go. And if the Rams don't handle business, why, they could drop right out of the playoff race. But if they do handle business, why, they could elevate. They could move up to the 6th seed. Okay? So, a lot still remains to be seen. But before we look too far ahead, I just want to give out game balls from the victory over the team formerly known as the Slurs. And so, game ball, Matty from the D. Matty from the D was throwing darts and dimes. I believe he had an 87% completion percentage. His accuracy was off the chart. And there were a couple drops. Puka had a drop, I believe. And so it just shows you the level at which Matty from the D is balling out right now. And if he can avoid injury and avoid the poltergeist, if he can do those two things, then, the Rams really have a high ceiling, because I believe they could beat them damn Cowboys, okay? Even though the Cowboys have a split personality disorder. They're this juggernaut team at home, and they're lousy on the road, and the Rams played them at home earlier in the season, and they whooped up on the Rams, something terrible. And if they play them in the playoffs, it would be on the Jerry World turf. So there's that. But I told you guys many episodes back, I don't believe in them damn Cowboys, and I'm still telling you the same thing. I don't believe in them, not one little bit. Okay? All right, and we just saw what Buff did to him. All right, so Matty from the D is playing top 5 level quarterback at this point in time. And so game ball Matty from the D. Game ball, K-Will, despite the fumbles, K-Will showed resolve, came back from what can be deflating, demoralizing 2 turnovers. He continued to run hard. He's dynamic. He's explosive. His jump cuts, the way he can start and stop, the acceleration, and then he's powerful. And then he's contributing in the pass game, picking up blocks, pass protection, and catching balls out of the backfield. He's becoming a better and better pass receiver. So game ball, K-Will. And then my final game ball, Soup. Game ball Soup. Soup took the top off. He breaks them down. And you got to give credit to McGenius for scheming it up. And, the motion, all those different wrinkles. Eventually, a defense can get baffled, and Soup will exploit you. So game ball Soup, and welcome back. And so, honorable mention, game balls, honorable mention to the O-line. They're playing cohesive ball like a unit, even with the sub in, sub out with no go boom. I mean, they're playing very well. So, honorable mention to the O-line. Honorable mention to Higbee. Welcome back, Higbee. He had some toe drag swag. He made a catch on the sideline that it was marvelous. It was magnificent. And so, welcome back, Higbee and the Rams defense. I call them out every week for I believe, a consistent season of strong play. They've been good every week. Shout out Raheem, AD99, and the youngsters on the defense, balling out. And so all of those are honorable mentions, but I've only got 3 game balls to give this week. And so let's very quickly look at the number. Matty from the D, 25 of 33 for 258, 2 touchdowns. He was clean, no poltergeist strikes. And K-Will, Kyron Williams, 27 carries. You know I like that. And I told you last week, 25 or more for K-Will. That is music to my ears. 27 carries, 152 yards, and a touchdown, despite the turnovers. Game ball. And Soup, Cooper Kupp, 8 receptions, 111 yards. He had a touchdown. He can still break a game. And so those are the game ball numbers. Now, very quickly, let's look at the team numbers now. Well, the Rams, they pretty much dominated them. The score was closer than it really should have been, but we talked about those squandered opportunities there with McGenius on the play calling side, and then K-Will on the turnovers, and then the Havlicek experience. All of these things contributed to the Rams not being able to get above 28 points. And so otherwise, though, it was a pretty dominant performance. In fact, until Jacoby Brissett came in, Washington was shut out and dead in the water. So the Rams, 445 total yards. and 6.1 yards per play. They had 196 rushing yards alone. Damn, near 200 rushing yards. Got to love that. 23 first downs, only 14 for Washington. The Rams were well above 50% on third down. They ran 73 plays, so they had quite an offensive output. The 2 fumbles cost them bad, but they had a 10-minute plus time of possession advantage over the team formerly known as. Now, let's look at the 25-30 principle, because you know I have staked my reputation, as it were, on that. And so what did we get? Well, just as a way of a reminder, with the 25-30 principle, now we want to cap the quarterback's attempts at 30. We want to cap him at about 30 pass attempts. Matty from the D, 25 completions, 33 attempts. 33 is right there in the ballpark. Nice job there. Rushing, 25-30 principle calls for a minimum of 25 run plays. And well, we already know Kyron Williams had 27 on his own. Plus, there were other run plays called. The Demarcus Robinson got a run play in the round for 23 big yards. Mr. Freeman had 6 carries. Puka had a couple of carries. And so the Rams had 36 carries. And you know from previous episodes, I harp on balance. What did Coach McWonder do? 33 pass attempts, 36 ground carries. Yes, that's balance, my folks. 33 in the air, 36 on the ground. Excellent job. Excellent job. And so here we are now, 7-7, and the playoffs are right there to be had. All you got to do is take advantage of your opportunities, cut back on the blunders. Now, New Orleans, they're also 7-7, and that's who's coming up in just a few hours. And so, Rams need to handle business in their final home game of the season and defeat the Saints. Make the Saints go marching out with an L. That'll get them to 8-7. And then the next game is the stanking New York Giants. That's a dub. Ring it up. And so that gets you to 9-7 in the final game of the season. Well, that is Father Shanahan and them damn Niners. And you know they've gotten you. What, they got you 9 in a row? 10 in a row? It's 9 in a row. This will be 10 in a row. It's hard to pick against the father when it comes to little McWonder. So what I can say, though, is that there is a possibility that Father Shanahan might take it easy on his son, Little Mick Jr. Because what if San Francisco's got everything all wrapped up? They got the number 1 seed in the NFC, which they probably will. They have nothing to play for in that final game of the season. What if they say, let's sit Purdy down. Let's sit Debo down. Let them rest. Run the backups out there. Then, and only then, Mr. McWonder should be able to go up there and get that dub. And that'll get them to 10, and that'll be beautiful. But if for some reason Father Shanahan wants to son McWonder again, in a couple of 3 weeks, well, 9-8, will it get you in? It may. It may. We just have to wait and see how it all plays out. And so you best believe I will be here to cover what happens on the other side of the Saints game. But what I need from you, what I need you to do is throw me one of these. Huh? Throw them to me now. Please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a message. Leave me a comment. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you see my point or if you think I'm way, way off. And until the next time, which you know won't be too long from this time, I'm very excited about what happens next in this Rams season journey. And so until then, my friends, Scotty says, One love.